So, okay, so yes, welcome. This is my part. So as you know, we're interviewing for candidates for Richardton-Taylor superintendent position. So hope you've enjoyed getting to know a few people and here in Taylor.
Yes.
And I trust Ralph was a good chauffeur.
Fabulous.
Okay, all right. So we have an hour and a half for this
Okay.
interview, but
Awesome.
there isn't anything following us, so. Each one of us will ask, we'll each ask about 3 questions, so it'll just be us board members asking questions and we'll go around and the questions are there for you. Team members may have a follow-up question and again, we have an hour and a half, so limit response time, but I think
How many questions do we have this
we
time?
have 16
16?
and question 17 is, do you have any questions for us? So it's, we won't run short of time. Okay, we want to introduce ourselves again. I forgot to do that last time. I'm Jody Huff, board president.
Damian Pauls, board member.
Jesse Patterson, elementary principal.
Misty Bogle, 5 through 12 principal.
Amber Bartz, business manager.
Dwayne Zett, board member.
Shannon Getz, board member.
John Shutt, board member.
Well, it's good to meet all of you. I'm still Dr. Cheryl Peterson and thank you for having me.
Okay, yes, thank you for coming and making the effort again. Okay, please give us an overview of your professional experiences, your beliefs on public education, and why you are interested in being our superintendent.
Okay, I'm gonna kind of go through this again. I've grown a lot this year, just to say real quickly. I took a position in Vallejo, California, Bay Area. And one of the things, and I did it basically kind of as an interim type position, it was a big school, inner city, all of those kinds of things. Went in to kind of clean up a PBL type school, had a lot of fun doing that cleaning piece. It is an EL education school, so expeditionary learning school. Cleaned what I could clean. I'm actually stepping out because I was interim, but one of the big things that I did was I handled an awful lot of discipline with kids, getting to know some of the kids, handling some of the situations, finding positive next steps for these kids. So instead of just doing the punishment piece, but really handling how do we help them grow, how do we help them, take those next steps and becoming engaged in the community, in the environment, whatever it might be. So it was a K-8, had a lot of fun doing that. I did it with everything from, some of my 8th graders were actually gang kids, and so that was an interesting thing, having to dive into fights with fingers crossed, hoping there were no knives in the fights. Had quite a few gun lockdowns, and I was really kind of pushed to my edge, if that makes sense, because I'm definitely not a city girl. I did come from California, but I'm not a city girl. But at the same time, I learned a lot. I learned how to handle, how to de-escalate, how to deal with some situations that can be pretty rough. Came through them okay. I'm still smiling, I'm still laughing, and I still love kids. So I spent a lot of times actually involving some of my older kids, building relationship with little kids and ones that were challenged, building relationships with some of those younger kids to help them feel like I have to be a model. There's a reason why I actually have to behave, that I have to do these things. And as they grow and do those kinds of things, going, oh, I get it. Seeing that light kind of come into their eyes, seeing a couple kids actually exit gangs. That was an interesting thing, having to meet with some of the people that were involved in that and saying, you know what, he really doesn't want to be involved in this and here's why, can I help? Kind of interesting challenge. Hadn't done that one before, but growing still. Going back real quickly, I want to just overview of professional experiences. I literally have been everything from kindy through master's students. I've taught everything in between. Probably don't want me in the sciences and higher maths. Sciences, I would explode something because you give me the opportunity to play with science things. I probably am going to go figure out a way to explode it. But I did the English side. So taught everything. Love teaching everything. Figure kindergartners and seniors are about the same. Seniors know how to tie their shoes. Kindies aren't there yet. But both of them just don't know which way they're going yet. And it's beautiful. And in that kind of hot mess, it's a great learning opportunity. So went overseas for 5 years, did what they consider head of school, which is the equivalency of superintendencies overseas. I've done it in Indonesia, in Sudan, in Mongolia, a lot of time in California, some time here now in North Dakota. My family comes from Wilmer, so that kind of explains my passion here. I have been working with, I forgot the name of it, but it's the Soil Academy. Got involved with them last year and they asked me to come to camp last summer. Didn't get to go because they wanted me to write curriculum for them. Because one of my passions is CTEs, is getting kids' hands dirty and involved in the community, working with the community, learning how to do and being involved. And so that's one of the big pieces for me, is this is a community that I would love to be able to plant those roots and be able to start facilitating some of those opportunities for kids to see different aspects of life, both in small town and in bigger towns, now that I've had that experience. There's goods and there's bads to it, but they have to really see the benefits of what is here. And why am I interested in being your superintendent? Honestly, I fell in love with you guys last year, I'm not gonna lie to you. I was kind of in a rock and a hard place because my husband was saying 4 days. And he has since de-escalated on quite a few things, and I'm ready to plant roots. So I'm ready to be there and completely and utterly involved. I've been looking at houses, trying to figure out what does that look like, how do I come? So I hope that gives a brief synopsis. If there's questions.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, oh yeah, your resume is very interesting, very experienced. Anybody have a question, follow up on that one? No? Okay. All right, well, based on what you know about our district, what do you view as the greatest opportunity for improvement?
Based on what I know, and I know this much, and every district has different people, different personalities, different everything that goes on. What I really do know is, I've told you before, I'm a CTE person. I love career involvement. I think bringing in various grants and things and really building engagement for kids to get their hands dirty and involved in using the education that they're gaining right here in the community. And that would be what I would say is the piece that I'm passionate about. Day-to-day stuff, that's rote for me. I'm ready to jump in where I need to. I want to listen to the community, so listening to the board, listening to the kids, listening to the families on what next steps look like. But for me, it's really building that relationship across the board, getting kids busy, really using what they're learning. Questions?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, well. So, if selected as our next superintendent, how would you work with the board to establish a dynamic shared vision for education that reflects student needs and community priorities?
Obviously, it's listening to you guys, but I'd want to know where you have been, and what have been the challenges that you've faced. What have you overcome? What are the next step challenges? The biggest thing is I want to hear how I can help, and that's the biggest picture. I know how to help run a school, how to facilitate things from top to bottom, but I want to know where the community wants to go with the school, and that's what's important to me. And so how do I facilitate that? I'd be listening to you as a board. I'd really want to hear also what the kids and the faculty say and the community says. And so really hearing what their input is vital to me, bringing that to you so that you hear it from multiple perspectives, not only your neighbors, but also hearing it as a whole piece as it comes through, whether I'm polling or I've got kids asking questions, however creatively we can do whatever that task is. Just so we have more data, more information on the table. I also stay very current on what's happening up at the Capitol and what I can do to pull grants and where the grants are. So in other words, if I know coming down in legislation, there's gonna be CTE monies in 2 years, well then let's fill in what we need to fill in now, because we know CTE money is coming, and so then we'll do it then and make a strategic plan step by step. How do we really realize our vision? And what is it that we need to do to make it happen here, and backward plan it accordingly, knowing what's coming from there, knowing what's happening in the community, and put all of that on the table together to make wise decisions.
Let me follow up with that one, back on your idea of find out what the community wants, what kids want.
Yeah.
What the faculty, tell me about some methods that you've used to gather that information, that data, formal, informal, or?
I've done both. So I've done things where I've actually had kids make phone calls. They say I'm from the school and I'm asking, what you want, and they had a lot of fun doing it. I've also done simple things like I go in and I read to kindy first graders, and I just sit down on the floor with them and I read a book to them. I get a chance to talk to them, ask them what do they like. Well, did you like lunch today? How's the lunchroom doing? And I'll just get that kind of, just so I hear it from their mouths. Same thing, sixth graders, I'll go out on the playground and just hear what they have to say, so that we get some informal data. But then I'll do community meetings and things like that where they can come in and share what's going well, what's not, share visions, here's the goal for this, but I wanna hear what you guys want. And people who are invested and want to share information show up. Sometimes we have 2, sometimes we have 100. It just depends on what it is. But it's really important for everybody to feel like they've had a voice in it. So it's important for kids to feel like they have a voice. So I'll even have kids, big kids run around and ask some of the little kids and pull the kids at the recess. It depends on the piece of data that we're looking for, that we wanted to say what's working, what's not, where can we take our next steps.
The school board is committed to increasing student achievement through a rigorous curriculum and encouraging high standards for all students. How would you communicate these expectations to parents, students, and staff?
I will tell you right now, if I haven't shared data 3 ways, I haven't shared it. And I think I shared that with you guys before, but it is vital to me that when I share out anything, it goes 3 ways. Because some people like stuff online in an email, some people like it on the website, some people want a paper copy. There are people who still want paper copies. It really just depends on that. But as far as high achievement, it's important to highlight what's working and where we're working for next steps. So each month I have a tendency to do a newsletter. Here's what we're doing and here's why we're doing it. And if I get feedback and I feel like we need to do a community meeting, I will do that and say, hey, let me explain this to you better. Obviously I draw on principals to help elaborate on that information, but I'm always there to back them up and to make sure that when the community comes in and they ask those questions, I know it too. It's not just the teachers and the principals that know it, I have to know it too, because I've got to see how it all fits together. Because sometimes elementary will say, hey, you know what, we know this is best practices, we do this, we do this, we do this, and then the question comes, well, how does this help our big kids? How does this help in the future? And if I don't know what's going on in the future, I can't answer that question, so I have to know both ends. So when we start talking about rigorous curriculum and why we're doing that, I will do kind of multifaceted, so I'll cover one subject a month kind of thing. Here's what we're doing in this, here's what we're using, even if it's just a tiny paragraph, but then also here's how we're doing as a school. This is, are we successful, or are we looking to improve this? Been talking to the kids and they're asking for this. So, and it's important for everybody to hear that so that they can say, hey, would you be interested in that? Hey, would you be interested in that? Is that something we really should pursue? And if the information isn't out there, how do we talk about it? And how do we have authentic conversations? So, and if we are struggling in an area, if we try to hide that, it becomes a point of contention. The more we put it on the table and talk about, here's what we're doing well, here's what we're doing to improve, it really helps. And then there's no elephants in the room, it's just all on the table that we can actually talk about with with transparency. So, cause no school's ever gonna be perfect, but as long as we're working to improve, that's what people wanna see.
When working with people, how would you describe your preferred relationship with them? What values do you appreciate most in a team environment?
I will tell you right now, I love working with teams. Okay, that's a vital thing for me. I have my own strengths, my own struggles. I prefer to find teams that I own what I do well and what I don't, so that we as a team together can solve those problems and everybody brings their best to the table. But for me, as long as two things: one, we're transparent and truthful. Being transparent and truthful is vital. And number two, the next piece to that is that we all have best intentions. We're here for the kids. We're not here for other agendas, but we're here to help our kids be successful as they head out into the world. And as long as that is our primary focus, is making sure that we are driving whatever we do for the success of the kids, then we're achieving. And it's gotta be ongoing, it's gotta be purposeful. But preferred relationship, I'd like to be part of the team. I like to be part of the community. I like to be involved.
Follow up on that, so say you find out that the problem with, you get stuck, and you find out the problem is truthfulness. Give me an example of how you've handled, and maybe it doesn't have to be truthfulness, but an example where you've gotten stuck with what you wanted to see out of the team. How did you work it out? How did you work out of that?
I held a community meeting
Okay.
and I put all of the data. I brought in people from the state to talk about what is going on and what's happening at the state level. And then I brought local people or professionals in that area that also talked about it, so that the whole truth was put on the table so that we could actually have transparency with
There
it.
you go.
So I shifted to community and I bring in the professionals from the various areas.
How do you set goals for yourself and your staff? How do you hold yourself and your staff accountable for student achievement goals while also balancing the demands put on educators?
Any way you look at it, there's two sides to educators. They're all overloaded. Any way you look at any educator, they're all overloaded. I actually was having a conversation with a community member the other day. Just teachers are overpaid. They only work this amount of time and did this whole big thing. And I said, well, tell me, how much is a babysitter? How much do you pay for a babysitter? Okay, well, let's half that. Okay, so now let's start talking about hourly. And we started going down that, and the look on his face was pretty priceless when he realized what teachers work for. And I said, but that's not the point of teaching. The point of teaching is that relationship with kids, and there's so much more that you get from teaching. And so, it all kind of works out together. But when we start looking at goals and we start looking at how do we grow together, there's all sorts of different theorists out there. There's all sorts of different growth and development systems. But what I've always done with it is we take 2 or 3 items that we work on. We pick 2 or 3 things that we as a team work on together. So teachers don't get to just pick their own goals. They have to pick goals within 2 or 3 realms that we are specifically all going to work on. We all set those goals together and we put them on chart paper and we put them up. And we revisit them every single time we meet. Here's what we're working towards. Here's why we're working towards this. How are you doing? Can anybody tell me a success? And you just make sure that everybody gets a chance to share their successes, but you have to keep it in front of them all the time, because otherwise you lose sight of those goals. You fall back, you get to January and you're like, oh yeah, I was gonna work on that. Then you get to May and it's like, yeah, no, I didn't do anything towards that. So if we keep it in front constantly, step by step by step, every single time, you are making progress. And then you can go back, you know what, I did do this class, I did do this training, and you can talk about how you made progress towards those goals. but you keep them consolidated so we all work together. It's not just one teacher's over here working on this and one staff's over here. And if we have it all over the place, we don't basically have a united front working together. So how do I set goals for myself? It usually is what's the next step for the community, and so those are the goals that I set for myself. But I will tell you right now, the day that I stop learning is the day that I need to be out of education. And I am constantly driving, what are we learning from research development? How does that affect us? The thing is, I'm not a trend-based person. I've been in education long enough to see the pendulum go back and forth a few times now, and I don't follow trends. There's not the latest, greatest ever, because the cycle goes around and around and around. What's important is to draw out the things that are going to make an impact on our group of kids and be a positive impact so that they can grow, not just, hey, that school's having great success with that. Well, that may not fit our kids. It's important to be able to say, our kids look like this, what's going to fit the need for our kids? And oftentimes it's not the latest, greatest, showiest, whatever. It's, and forgive me for saying this, sometimes it's actually slogging it out day in and day out with the kids, working, through it. It's not a magical online, we're gonna put them on this and they're gonna be fixed. Because that's not gonna happen, we all know that. So when we talk about goals, I set goals very specific about what's the next step the school, the community needs. I go towards those. I make sure that what we're doing as a staff and faculty are within those guidelines, but we all stay together and we drive together.
What steps will you take to develop trust, high morale, and positive relationships with school personnel?
That's an interesting one that always comes up. Obviously, I'm gonna work with principals, celebrating different events, different things. I'm gonna tell you right now that one of the things I did do was house teams, and all of the kids were on house teams. So if everybody thinks Harry Potter and the house teams, we did a lot of that, where monthly we did an assembly, the kids did competitions, and we were able to talk about important things, but the kids from kindergarten through 12th grade were all in the teams and we all built together, and it was a lot of fun. It built spirit within the confines of the school. And then even at staff meetings, we did competitions, and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun, and it was an ongoing thing online. That's one aspect. Another piece is being vulnerable and available. So I will tell you right now, I'm the first one to admit when I've made a mistake, because I'm like, oh, I blew it. How do we grow from it? Because I modeled what I expect from my staff, from my kids, because the best way we learn is from mistakes. And that really is. I mean, when you think about how do you learn, it's not just a book opening up, yeah, I spit out the information. It's actually making the mistake, figuring out what you did, and then how do you write it? And so if I don't model that it's okay to make mistakes, I'm setting up an expectation that's not real. So it's important for me to be the model for that. So that's something, just being vulnerable and being available. Walking the halls, letting people know that I'm there, being at the games where parents can talk with me or at me, depending on what mood they're in. Whatever it might be, just being there. I definitely love to be a part of the community, but I still recognize the role that I fill in that I'm still a servant of the community. And so, while I might be out for dinner and hoping for just, I need a break, sometimes that's the only opportunity that parent might have to actually come and talk to me. And I have to recognize that, if I really don't want to be involved in the community that night, well, then I better go to dinner someplace else, because if I'm here, I'm a servant to the community.
Thank you.
So.
Explain how you encourage and incorporate staff input into planning activities. Provide examples of staff ideas that have been implemented under your leadership.
Okay. I tend to do it at the beginning of the year, or better yet, at the end of the year. What worked this year, what didn't, and I do staff meetings where we put different, if we've done the polling and we have the data, we put it on the walls, what's worked, hasn't, where are our strengths, where are our struggles, we take the data from whether it's state or our own information, there's a lot of that we could pull. And then we say, what can we make as a goal for next year, or what can we work on this year? And we start to really isolate very specific things. Teachers then have an inside information because they've been in the classroom and they know, hey, I don't have this, this, and this. I can't do what you're asking me to do. And that's okay, because now they've just told me how I could fix it. So I tend to put it on the wall. I let the principals run with it, but I'm there listening and helping guide some of the different questioning. What have we done? At Drayton, we started working on getting some of the elementary systems overhauled, so the reading systems and some of those overhauled. I actually, in that particular one, I wrote over $1 million in grants, and so we were able to get the money in to start the programming. And I know some of it's going really well and some of it's not. I still get phone calls from the current principal going, how do I? And I'm like, okay, let me talk you through it. So it's really important though to have those meetings and then to keep those posters up, keep them talked about. You said this then, you said that third grade reading was where we were falling off. So we got this, is this working? Is it not working? Why is it not working? Do you have any ideas? Do you have an idea on how do we improve it? No? Okay, well, let's go back to the data and let's talk about it. But if we do it as a group and we put that data up, sometimes somebody might have oh yeah, my daughter, da-da-da-da-da, and here's why she kind of struggled with this piece. Oh, well, let's investigate that. Did that follow through? It's not a magical fix. It really is talking about it, putting everybody in the room, making sure that that transparency happens. But I can tell you right now that if we don't listen to the teachers are listening to the kids. And so if you don't have that voice in there, it's really the teachers that drive it. And so if you don't have them engaged and excited about where it's going and feeling like they're appreciated and they're heard, you run into a problem. But they also have a lot of the inside information, so they're kind of your secret go-tos.
I want to follow a question, how do you facilitate that? I mean, time-wise and that, how do you make time for that type of collaboration that you just talked about?
All of the schools that I have been at, I took away the half-day things that we did. Now, I'm not telling you that that's the fix here, okay? I'm telling you this is what I've done in the past. Each community is different. Each community has different tolerances on what they'll go for and what they want. I ran it so that we had one PD day a month, and that was very purposeful. So that we could have that in-depth collaboration. I didn't do them every week. People weren't like, is it Monday, Tuesday? Do they go when? What's the schedule? They had one day a month. And doing that then, I actually treated the staff to breakfast and lunch so that they felt like they were cared for. Did as many treats. I usually had an event, a game, something that had to do with house teams in all of the schools I've been in. But then we actually got that collaboration done. We had big group stuff, we had small group stuff, we brought data to the table, and everybody knew that they were going to be responsible for bringing something to the table, so everybody brought everything that we needed for that day. And then we were able to have those high-level conversations. But like I said, it really depends on the community, the tolerances, what the routine looks like, what the teachers are game for, what the whole big community and games and sports and competitions, what that looks like, it really just depends. But in most of the schools, I've scheduled it, so we had a PD day once a month.
And that's what we have here right now, the PD day, once a month.
Once a month. Okay, how can a district actively recruit employees? What part have you played in the improvement of recruiting and retention of employees in your previous roles?
I've played a vital role in all of it, and how can one recruit? I've done everything from bringing in folks and helping them I've done the para to teacher program, I've done the international, bringing in the H1s, so people from overseas. So in that particular situation, what I'm usually looking for is if we've already recruited somebody here for farming, I'm looking at the wives, do we have teacher wives, or vice versa, whatever it might look like. I've also, I've taught overseas, so I know which countries we would get quality teachers from. So in other words, there are times that we can't necessarily fill a particular role, whether it's music, art, science, whatever that might be. There are some folks, and I know how to kind of suss them out, that would actually challenge our kids appropriately. And there's others that would be warm bodies in the classroom, and we don't want that. So I do go to universities, and I go to universities that I know to try to pull the kids and sell the programming. I've done all kinds of things, you name it, I've tried it, and differing success. Sometimes it has to do with word of mouth, and I'm constantly doing that too. So.
Oh, go ahead.
How about retaining the employees that you've already got?
That goes back to making them feel like they have a voice. That really does. When teachers feel like they have a voice and their voice is heard, that they have fun when they come to work because they can do what they're passionate about, they want to keep coming. When they come and they don't feel like they're heard, or they feel like they're battling discipline issues constantly and they have no support, nothing, I've seen teachers melt away because they struggle to do what they are passionate about.
Okay, I had a follow-up too, on the H1N1, so bringing teachers in from other countries. Have you done that in a community where it's never been done before, and then how was it received?
I was working on it at Drayton. At first, everybody put walls up. It was like, oh, no, can't do that.
I believe it, because the whole thing is, you're gonna bring someone in who doesn't even speak good English, what are you thinking?
But see, that's just
Anyway,
it, you don't have to do that. There are some of the countries that you can pull that they come from farming communities just like ours, and they're folks just like ours. And their English probably is even closer to now it's the King's English, but it's much more formal, much more, it's appropriate. Would I pull people where their English is challenged? No, absolutely not. I would only pull people from places where they would fit into the community appropriately, and that's all I was doing. So, and once they realized what I was doing, in fact, it was a family that, in this particular instance, and this is just a particular instance, the husband had already been recruited, and he I don't even want to say, he came from another nation that it was a farming community just like here. And he came fully loaded as a farmer, and his wife was a fully loaded New Zealand teacher. And so she was already preloaded, ready to go as a teacher, and had years of experience. So when I'm pulling H1s in that particular case, I'm pulling people that would fit into the community appropriately, not to be somebody who would come in as, I don't know,
Yeah, sure.
it just not fit.
No, that's interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's the most challenging operational issue in school districts today, and how do you approach this challenge?
Schools are operating on budgets that are not appropriate, I'm not gonna lie to you. There is just not enough dollars to go around to make schools work properly. And so how do I do that? I write grants, and I write a lot of them. Drayton, I pulled in $1 million, internationally I pulled in international money, usually more than $1 million typically, but you know, every year is different. But I work really hard to bring in money. Because if we have the money from which to work, you can make choices, and you can make choices for what's best and not just get by and make do. So that's what I would say is the biggest challenge right now is, for some strange reason, they believe that schools can operate on pennies.
Tell us how you would guide a school district in developing a budget, specifically how a district should determine its priorities in accounting for unanticipated expenditures. What level of involvement should principals and other administrative staff have in this process?
Everybody has to have a voice. Typically when I do budgeting, you guys will kind of laugh at how I do budgeting. I started off about mid-year. And I have representatives from every department. So whether it's the parents usually have a voice, but I bring at least one representative from every environment. So principals have to be there because they're gonna have people from elementary, and we decide how we're gonna break it down, whether it's K and down, so you're talking kind of that early childhood, and then you have the 1-2s, however it might be, but you have representatives, and they all bring the needs to the table. They bring needs. Here's what's working, what do we need, what's not, what's the next step. Parents get that voice, everybody gets that voice. And then we put it on the table. And sports may come and say, I need a new stadium. I'm just using that as an example, so let's not
We
say
do,
that.
we'll take that.
I need this new stadium. Well, great, I'm glad you need that. And over in Kindy, they're saying, oh, but I need a track so the kids can ride their little scooters around the track. And, you know, 3rd and 4th grade's going, oh, but we need a ropes course because whatever it might be. All of that comes to the table. And I'll tell you something, I've yet to see this fail, where everybody listens to everybody's needs. And everybody doesn't agree on what needs to happen for the school, for the good, for all of the kids first. I've yet to see 2 departments say, no, I'm more important. I've yet to see people, when they look each other in the eye and say, yeah, you're right, we need that first, because that's gonna help the whole community and the kids most important, that's what we need right now. Then you start working on the budget. Then you say, how are the teachers doing? Are they still financially supported? Or do they feel supported? What do we need for overhead? You backward plan it, and you gotta leave, traditionally I leave a pretty big cushion, because when things go bad, they don't usually go bad little. Like you leave this little tiny bit as your cushion and say, oh, we're gonna make do with that. They never go bad like that. It's always something huge and you're like, oh, we're doing the whole air conditioning system. Okay, but if you haven't planned for it, you're up a creek and there aren't paddles and you don't know how you're gonna get through it. So, but even a lot of that, if you plan ahead, you can anticipate some, but having that there, and if you get to the end of the year and you're like, oh, we didn't use it, you already know, you have your priority list. We didn't use it, so now we can spend it on that, so let's get it done. And then you can go forward.
How would you ensure the school board is informed on important matters?
A weekly notification of everything happening. I usually set up a Google Classroom for the board and I just, here's everything happening, and then you have a chance to go back and say, what's working, what's not. You guys have the data, and if something's urgent, I send it out that way so that the board doesn't, and actually, I include the principals in it too, quite simply because they need to know so that they're not blindsided as well. Not good when principals are blindsided by things, so. Yeah, if it comes on your phone when you're busy working and you can see it before you get to the next stop, that somebody's gonna come approach you and go, hey, did you know? You already know.
What do you see as the difference between career technical programs and college readiness programs?
Well, they're two different programs. They just are, but they don't have to be.
Okay, tell us more. They don't have to be.
They do not have to be. There's a program out there, and not that I like the design of it, but not necessarily the program itself. If you run a solid program with career tech, where those classes count towards their graduation and towards a skill, a trade, whatever it might be, and kids take those classes, then they take various academic classes that will apply towards those or be utilized with those, or however it might be something totally different, okay? They have those, and then they have whatever extras. So just to give a synopsis, typically it's like a 2-year program that 11th and 12th grade run, where they get to take a couple CTEs, a couple academics. They usually have some form of a community project that they do within it, as well as a couple other projects. When they come out and they have all of these strands, not only are they career ready, because they could go to work if they had to, because they do have those career classes, they also are college ready. And so if they choose to go to college, they've got that opportunity to do so. I know with the program in particular that I'm thinking of, kids that are in that program step out and they start businesses and they do all kinds of things because they have those skills to do that. But universities are also fighting for them with this particular program. Now, is that what I would say we need to do that program? No. But do I think the design of it, is it plausible and is it something that we can do here in North Dakota? Yeah, because I've talked to CT and I've talked to a bunch of people up in Bismarck about it, and it really does follow what we are doing already. We just have to bring them together, because when we get kids graduating, we want them to have options. We don't want them to be stuck into one strand. We want them to have options to, if they want to go work for a couple of years and get experience in the world, if they want to go straight to college, maybe they want to go do military. I don't know, but we have to give them options. And so if we do help them with some of those courses and make those offerings, they can get all of that and be both.
Yeah, I kinda like that. I mean, I see, like, as a senior in high school, you don't always, most of them don't really know if they wanna be a CTE type kid or a university kid. I mean,
But
you don't know,
no, and
You're too
then
young.
they need options.
so
They really
that's good.
I wrote a class at Drayton for STEM math because I had a lot of kids that were struggling with the math and seeing no purpose for it. So I rewrote it, and it actually was community math. We called it STEM math because that's what was in the binder of classes that we could do. But one quarter was construction, and so it was all the math involved in construction, and they went out to the community and did. One was actually on the fields. I mean, and that actually ended up being more algebra than they had any clue. Because it was like, okay, here's your field, here's your inputs, how long is it gonna take you? And the kids were like, oh, and I'm like, nope, no computers, let's do this. And they learned how to do it. And they didn't realize they were doing algebra. They had no clue, but they did. And they did it at an Algebra 2 level. Then we also did all of the volumes, so all of the liquids and the dry storage and all of the grain bins and all of that. They talked about how much for this and that. And it was a very fun course, actually. And then the last one was their project. So it was 4 quarters, and the last one was, what is your project going to be? And it was a whole, how do you use math in the community? from that class, we had a lot of kids then break into what it was that they wanted to pursue, but they walked out with higher level math and they didn't know that they were doing it until they did it. So, when you apply things, kids tend to learn it better.
Love the STEM stuff. Describe how you communicate and engage with students.
The same as I communicate and engage with you, with transparency, with openness, with a smile, with laughter. Walking down the hall, my door is open. I've said that before. I have an open door policy. But sometimes that means I have to be in the hallway when the kids are messing around and it's like, and what are you doing and why are you doing that? And then I get to hear all the good stories. And sometimes they open up and sometimes they don't. Sometimes I actually have to be out when they're leaving in their cars and trucks and whatnot and get more. And it's about being where the kids are, not asking them to come to me.
What is your idea of positive district culture? What actions will you take to build or improve the culture in our district and inspire trust in the community?
I kind of feel like I've covered some of this, and so I'm like, but to try to give you a better idea is getting kids involved in the community. I really want kids involved because they need to see what a beautiful community and how they can make a difference in the community. And that can happen with little kids, it can happen with big kids. Improving the culture, sports are super important and I love sports, but not every kid is a sports kid. I think it's important that we celebrate all aspects of what kids do. And so really highlighting what kids are doing, whether it's at home, in their hobbies, whatever it might be, and really highlighting what our community does. Sometimes it's highlighting a new family, sometimes it's highlighting, I don't know, I thought it was kind of cool when one of the guys got a new tractor and we brought it to school and the kids got to learn about it. Just really acknowledging and loving on the community itself. So how do we do that? Anything from house teams to, because house teams, you can do it nighttime and you bring in all of the community and you run programming a few times. I started with just a few times a year, but I love running it monthly where dinner is served, an activity is there, and then there's the opportunity for follow-up, whatever that might look like. And when that is set as a routine and the community starts to get involved, you start building conversation, you start hearing what families are thinking. Mommies love it because they don't have dishes one night. And the kids are busy, and the kids are engaged, and the kids are doing things here at school. And then families also get to come in and see what school is doing, not just talking about, oh, they didn't this, oh, they didn't do that. They're actually there. They get to see what the kids are doing. And that improves too. So it's not just one thing, it's multifaceted. It's showing and highlighting all the good things going on.
What are the most important first steps a superintendent should take in a new district?
Get to know the community. Get to know the kids, get to know the teachers, get to know, honestly, the community. So that means being at whatever's going on and actually being invested in climbing in tractors and running out and visiting and doing whatever it takes to be with dirty boots, if that makes sense. Because you don't get dirty boots if you're in your office. But besides that, really setting up opportunities for voice, just to hear what the community needs and wants. So first steps are really just investing in hearing what's going on.
Okay, well, that's our 16. Do you have any questions for us?
You know, I have like a million questions for you guys.
Well, we have plenty of time.
Really, the first one I wanna know is from last year to this year, what has gone right? What have you guys improved? You as a board kind of coalesced. When I was here last time, you weren't even on the board yet, you were kind of changing over. From that time to now, what has happened that you guys are really proud of for the school? That you guys have helped facilitate?
I think we've implemented the focus on the math and reading programs. And now we got all new reading curriculum, is that right?
Looking at it,
We're in the process.
We're looking at the reading, we got the math.
yes.
Yeah.
I
But
should ask
we're
you
also
guys.
looking at
Yeah, you're right.
social studies. We're also looking at social studies and we started a program for title.
So do you guys have a curriculum review cycle? Like every year you do a different curriculum? And you're doing
We
that?
have the last 3 years, kind of depends on how much COVID money we have left.
Okay, so what you're
But-
trying to do is use the COVID money to update everything and then you maybe slide back into like a 5-year curriculum review, so every year you do one subject and update it?
Yeah, it has been looking that way, however, I know like, Mr. Patterson has been working with the science of reading right now. Because we did have a new reading curriculum, but we're just making sure that it's meeting what we want it to meet, to make sure the students gain what they can.
Yeah.
So, we're doing some research on that right now and
What curriculum did you?
We've looked at 3, we've got some physical sample materials from, currently we have Wonders reading.
Okay.
The 2017 copyright, which is just partially aligned.
Yeah.
So, just because we have Wonders, we looked at their updated one, Wonders 2023.
Yeah.
Wit and Wisdom.
Yeah.
And then Amplify CKLA, and then going into the middle school grades, it would just be Amplify ELA.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 that we've gotten materials from and have had our staff look at so far.
Okay, and you're still looking at others?
So far, that's the 3 that we're gonna be deciding on.
Okay. And are you feeling good with any of them yet?
Yeah,
Okay.
there's definitely,
All I
just
wanna
like
know.
everything else, there's a lot of good things to some, and there's also some negatives that, kind of like what you highlighted, when we're looking at what meets our students'
Yes.
needs, and that's kind of what the lens we're looking through.
Good.
While it might be good for other schools, maybe it's not what's best for our students, so that's kind of the lens and approach that we're taking.
Okay. How about, I'm just gonna kind of go through, how's community perception right now of school?
Based on the last survey we put out, probably use some improvement.
Okay, that's okay. That is an area for showing growth. Nothing bad there. To me, that's just a wahoo, we can do the next steps, okay? I'm just curious, I'm looking here, cause I wanna know. I'm not gonna lie to you, I fell in love with this community when I was here last time, and yeah, it happened. So, the other question is, as principals, is there anything specific that you guys are looking for? What would you love to have support as a principal?
Well,
And I know you're brand new, so it's
Well,
okay, you can
I'm-
say anything, the world is yours.
No, well, I'm gonna feed right off of that, just the continual support of a new admin, and
Mhm.
I've already learned, each month I'm just learning more and more, and from the version of myself I was in August to now, I've grown. I wanna continue to grow as my mindset too, just that growth mindset of I just wanna always be better and better and better and never complacent. So the support for me to continue on that path, and the guidance and wisdom and just things like that, just being available, and you mentioned that word a couple times of someone to go to, cause I'm not perfect and I know I don't have all the answers, but I'm a question person and I'll ask a million questions a day until I've learned it.
Well, and
You
keep
know?
asking.
Yeah, so that'd be a big one for me, just the continual support and as I continue to grow as an admin.
Mine would be teamwork. We do a lot of things in teams. I believe telling a teacher, being as I was a teacher, doesn't get you your goal. So teachers are on teams, teachers make decisions. If there's something that comes up, we have those crucial conversations of is this best or not? But I really truthfully believe that your whole staff has to be part of those decisions to have everyone going one direction.
Absolutely, agreed. How does school calendar, is it working well for the community? I'm just asking.
I think it is.
I haven't heard any problems there.
Okay. Now, how about the impact on the budget for this building? What's happening with that? Is there still impact? Is the building paid for, or what's it? Didn't think so, so what does that look like?
We're actually in pretty good shape, you know, in that area, you know, budget wise, cause we have a decent savings.
Okay,
The building is paid for out of mills that we.
okay, so that's where it's coming from.
So, right, yeah, so the new building is always covered by the additional mills that we're levying. We may struggle from time to time in upgrading things, but we've dipped into savings for the improvements to the Taylor School and things that we've had to do,
Okay,
you know, so no, building's okay.
okay,
There are at least, we got what, 14 years left on
I think 14.
the,
okay,
it was a 20-year note,
Yeah.
a 20-year bond
okay.
issue, so yeah, there's definitely time left on that before we can undertake the next project.
Oh, it's okay,
You know, unless you write some really, really good grants.
I do.
Yeah.
I do, I actually got in second place for one at Drayton that would put a new building, so.
So,
Okay, so then the next question is, retaining teachers, housing in the community. Talk to me about housing in the community. Do teachers live here? Do they live in Dickinson? Where do they live?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, all of the above.
But what does housing look like locally? Are they able to be a part of the community? Not all teachers want to be a part of the community, let's qualify that, I get that, but some do. Is it viable for them?
I think so.
You know, at some level, there's always, you know, houses to buy, you know, okay.
Okay, so there is always houses to buy. I'm asking.
Yeah,
I would
yes,
say for the most part.
now,
Okay,
is it the house you want? Maybe not, you know, it
that
might-
doesn't, that's not what I'm
It might
asking.
be too much of a fixer-upper or this or that. This town struggles with apartments. You know, if you're a young single teacher and you just wanna grab an apartment and, you know, and live close by, Richardton does not have, we don't have good apartments,
Okay.
you know, a lot for rent, so then you're going to a different community.
Okay.
Typically Dickinson, there's plenty of apartments in Dickinson,
Yes,
there's
there
lots,
is.
but
And they're
then,
very expensive.
yeah, but then, yeah, and you're at a 25-mile drive,
Yes,
good weather or bad,
well,
you know.
bad, it's just good build, just saying.
Yeah, so yeah, we struggle.
I
and we
I
should
think
build more.
Dickinson is inflated with housing values considerable. A little of that is trickled into this community
Has it?
for a good house, that,
Okay.
just being honest,
Well,
it's.
everybody has little jobs.
That's a,
Yeah, but there's, I mean, outlying communities, of course, too, I mean, you know, Taylor, Gladstone, Hebron, I mean, you start going around.
Okay, cause that builds into teacher retention and are they involved, do they feel like they're a part of the community or at the level that they want to be involved in?
Right.
I've had some teachers that are like, I will never live in the community where I teach, I live over the hill away. I have others that are like, they have to be in the middle of it all.
on
And
teacher retention, I'll say this, we probably as a district have a lot to lose in that area. We have great staff, a lot of good teachers, and when you look at area schools, they're having to do extreme measures. Interesting how you answered the question where you explained to us your understanding of use of, you know, international resources on that, but we haven't had to go down that road and we'd sure like to not have to. So retention, now, one of the pressures that you brought up is, it's not too far. And one way you say, it's this far to Dickinson, it's not too far either in terms of retaining our current teachers. So definitely something on top of my mind, so. Yep.
Okay. how about, I'm gonna say social opportunities for students and discipline? When we're looking at discipline and social opportunities for kids to be social with other people, whether it's other communities, this community, does that happen? You probably are the one. And then discipline, are we seeing challenges? Are we seeing, because sometimes when there's not enough social outlet, we see more discipline. Sometimes when there's too much social outlet, we see discipline. So I'm just curious what that looks like.
Were you looking at me, but I was waiting for Jessica to answer.
I was gonna say,
I will certainly go
I'm looking at you, but you know what? It actually starts here. So,
So, obviously our discipline worlds are two completely different worlds. Maybe your fifth and sixth a little bit, but as far as what we deal with and as far as the social outlook on that, it's a good question for me to look at opportunities for kiddos.
Yeah.
But we intertwine a lot of life lessons in our discipline, a lot of
okay.
questions and reflecting, and I'm blessed to say I don't have a lot of high disciplinary concerns.
Okay.
I don't have any high flyers or constant for things that I would call major. Kiddos are kiddos, maybe we all need reminders. I have a lot of reminder conversations, and let's go over our expectations just to make sure we're clear for the 15th time on what our expectations at recess are, or fill in the blank. But I'm huge on turning that into a teachable moment. And I've gone outside with kiddos so they can show me they know the expectations, or, but big concern, communicating with staff on some discipline areas and things like that. That's a big component of that transparency that you mentioned, of just being on the same page.
And all the teachers are on the same page, holding the same set of rules?
I think we're, again, because we don't see those high behaviors, so it's not a school-wide concern. But I think we're getting there as far as our steps and our system in place when they do arise, or if we notice consistent behaviors among specific students. We have some plans in place for that.
Okay.
Just teachable moment, make it relevant to life lessons, and then allow them the opportunity to grow from it as well.
Okay.
If that answers your question fully.
It's the start, yeah.
Okay, that means you get to finish.
Okay. Social outlets, I feel like our community puts into a lot to our kids.
Okay, good.
Not necessarily that they all take advantage of everything. Our churches are very active, our sports are very active. We started archery, we're looking at starting a gaming type thing. We started doing more competitions academic wise in the last few years. There's a lot of people that still help on the farm or need to work with family, and that's just part of who we are, so we work with that. We have a lot of kids at work.
Yeah.
So we have different things like that, and with our leadership teams, we have some that are starting to do more with the community, where we have groups go over to the nursing home, groups to go downtown. We're starting to take, once in a while, we do some joint things with Taylor and Richardton, like some readings or some different things like that. Could it be more? Absolutely, but yeah, we're trying to be consistent in the classroom. Discipline-wise, over the past 4 years, I have, our leadership teams have decided to work towards engagement strategies, more engagement all the time. The more engagement that we have every year, the less of a discipline file I have. That's what we're seeing. Do you still have, and that's because you're getting that community between your students working with teachers, students working with students. Is it all glorious? No, sometimes there's arguments and fighting and whatever. We still, once in a while, something happens and it just has to be dealt with. If it's anything that can be through conversation first and teachable moments, yes. If it's a big thing, that is way past the conversation, because you are now at this age and you know better. We've had those multiple conversations. It's on the matrix, here's where we're at, and then we work with that. I also don't think kicking people out of school is necessarily always a teachable moment. So we work with Sunrise Youth Bureau and a couple other counselors to see if we can make it more of a teachable moment, not as a discipline, but what have I learned from this? What could I do better? What do I need to internally look at to help make myself better and everyone else around me have a better environment? So yes, we still have big things once in a while. but it is what it is, and we're kids and we try to refocus and redirect.
Yeah.
Staff-wise, I would say we're pretty consistent. Do they get tired once in a while and I have to say, hey, so-and-so had their hood on, say, so-and-so had their phone out. I know, but we're as consistent as possible and we snap right back. And I say too, hey, guess what? If you see something that you need me to do that I'm not seeing, or you think that I'm just tired, say it.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna take all of us to keep it consistent, and my staff is good at that.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Alright, then I'm just gonna say, is there any specific vision or goal or desire that you guys are shooting for next? Is there anything on the table already?
I think that the curriculum focus or the student achievement piece of it, I feel like we're starting to focus more on, because I think years ago, our test scores were low, I think we've slowly started getting them back up, so getting the board a little more focused on student achievement is probably a thing we need to do too, we had taken that
I was gonna say, have you
class
guys
that,
done Be Legendary
Be
yet?
Legendary thing.
Did you follow up with it doing the monthly one or no?
We did not.
Is there a
We
reason why
followed
you
up yet,
didn't?
so.
I think it was dropped on both ends. I don't
Yeah,
think,
you were looking at that one too.
I don't, when we went to it, it was basically condensed to like 7 hours.
Cause of Blizzard.
Yeah.
Was it even 7 hours?
Yeah,
No.
just one.
I don't even know if it was 7
I don't know
hours.
if we got 6 hours there and on
Yeah.
a 2-day course and
Who did you have? Do you remember who? Was it Marcia?
Yes.
don't think-
remember.
I think it was Marcia.
I don't remember.
Just Texas.
Well, I think they're
Well, both
in
of them are
Texas.
from Texas, it's the same
Oh.
company. But I understood that Marcia was handling the east side of the state and the other was handling the west side. So I'm wondering if you got the other, but if Marcia
I
came
shouldn't say
here,
for
that
sure.
would have been hilarious.
It was in Dickinson actually, we combined
Yeah.
with Kildare.
Yeah. And it was, cause it was right around Easter time, cause she was concerned about being stuck here over Easter.
Yes.
And
Yeah, we went through it fast, but
so yeah, it went quick. I think that, like I said, I think it got dropped on both ends, the ball. I don't think there was follow-up on our side, but it also felt, or at least I felt like we didn't get what we
Well, you
should've.
didn't get it with that. I will tell you though, that initial training was interesting and kind of fun to do, kind of the novelty. We didn't hit meat and potatoes until we did the monthly.
right, yeah, the initial was all the concepts of what you should
Yeah.
be doing.
And once we did the monthly, now all of a sudden, the board had the opportunity to actually learn how to evaluate, how to take the next steps, how to ask the questions, and it was really valuable for the board to go through that. Could I do it? Yeah, but I'm still your employee, so I mean, that would be kind of an interesting dynamic to do. But I've been through it now, so being able to train a board is super important, because you guys, you don't come preloaded, it's kind of like you step into this role and it's like, how do I, and what questions do I need to ask, how do I extrapolate the information? And it's really important for you guys to know all of the pieces and parts inside and outside to really help guide the school properly, so. So that was the last question, was just the Be Legendary, is understanding where you guys are at. So,
Yep, just started,
okay,
so.
alright.
Okay.
Anything else, you guys?
Okay. All right. Just one more thing I have to do.
Okay.
Thank you for your responses to our questions.
You're very welcome. I'll read that with you.
Yeah, we still have a little time to answer a few questions if anyone else may have them. We appreciate again your interest in our district and taking the time to come to see us. We don't know exactly when we're gonna have an answer right away, but we will be talking early next week, I believe. And so, are you under any kind of time crunch or where you need to know quickly or or not so much?
I have an interview Saturday.
Okay,
That's all.
okay. Yeah, so yeah, I guess, yeah, with that, I guess we'll let you know, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate your time again, so.
Forgive that I was coming directly. When you called, I was actually in California. And I was like, I don't have the interview clothes. I'm like, well, all right, here we go. So thank you for your patience with me driving in, because I actually drove from, I don't know where I drove from today. I drove 6 hours, and now I'm gonna drive all the way to Forks. So,
Oh, okay, be safe, family still in Grand Forks?
oh yeah, yeah, they're there, and so I'll be going there, but, where did I come from? Forgive me, the last 10 days, I've literally been all over. I went to Florida, came back to Indiana, went from Indiana to Seattle to Sacramento. Yeah, and then we're through Idaho coming back, so.
And then eventually have to go back to California?
That's where I was last night, was Innis. And then they're gonna call me when they need me and I'll fly. I'm not doing this driving thing again, so I've had enough of that. So, anyway, thank you all for your time, thank you back there, appreciate you. I kinda wish you could have asked questions, but that's okay. Alright, thank you all.
So,
Thank you.
so. Let's see. We can't do much more as a board, but maybe just a few quick housekeeping things. I think I'm gonna change the agenda for tomorrow to have a next steps piece after our interview tomorrow.
Thank you,
Okay.
I appreciate it.
See you later, take care.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Yeah, thank you for coming again, and is that any of?
That's all
yours?
y'all's.
Okay.
I don't wanna take y'all's information, so. Alright, you guys take care.
Drive safe, drive safe.
Drive safe, travel.